Welcome in, everybody, wherever you are, however you may be listening. This is Between the Lines. We have a great guest for you today. Co-founder of the Celebrity All-Star Classic, VP of our former Seattle Sea Dragons, and, of course, the current Chief Operating Officer of your Seattle Seawolves. Welcome, Drew Dambreville. What's up, my man?
Hello. How's everybody doing today?
Good. All right. So, first year as COO, how did you see that? Was that did it go how you planned? You know, sort of that good, bad, the ugly. Were there like I always look at it as sometimes you don't always know all the questions you need to have until you're in it.
1000%. We're still in startup mode. It's amazing space to be in. The Seattle Seawolves franchise has been on the pitch, I like to say, exceptional, right? 8 seasons. They've played in 4 championships. They've won 2. We've had 2 West Coast championships. So my job was coming in and growing our off the pitch presence and our game day activation. So going in, it's you have a lot of ideas. I'm surrounded by an amazing team of executors, and the goal was like, how can we better the fan experience? How can we increase it? You know, if you're a family or even an individual and you choose to spend your discretionary cash with us to be a season ticket holder or attend a match, we want it to be more than just showing up, watching rugby and going home, right? So we invested in that fan experience and making sure that from when you park your car to you return to your car, it's an elevated experience.
Yeah, and of course, I got to see some of that firsthand with the the kids' days, stuff like that. So how do those events come together? I imagine there's a lot of moving pieces to make that work.
That's what we're working right now in the off season. You know, we don't have our schedule yet, but we look at internally what worked, what theme nights worked and resonated well with fans. How can we make them better? You know, the bare minimum is doing the same thing year over year. It's okay. This is what we did. This what's worked. What are the trends happening around the country? You know, whether we're looking at baseball, whether we're looking at soccer, rugby overseas. What are other teams doing to elevate these various type of theme nights, and how can we lean into that and create a better experience for our fans?
That makes sense, especially pulling from teams overseas, right? Because it's so much bigger outside the U.S. Obviously, growing here, certainly within Seattle. But so, what do you see that's working around the world that is or maybe isn't here?
So it's funny you say that. So I don't come from a rugby background, as you mentioned. So what I feel is sometimes rugby gets too rugby, right? We are in America. We need to cater to an American populace. And what I've seen is rugby has 3 types of fans. Most sports teams, you have your diehards. So we have our rugby fanatics. Then you have your expats or those that grew up in rugby playing nation. And then you have the small group of Americans that, whether it was to a friend or childhood buddies or a club or what, found their way to rugby, right? For us to grow the sport, I feel like we need to tap into what some of the American franchises are doing. You know, you look at MLS, for instance. MLS didn't go and copy tit for tit what Premier League soccer and those guys did. They Americanized it. And I think rugby, MLR, we need to do the same, right? We need to know what our fan base wants, but then also recognize what our fan base experiences when they go to other sporting events in the area. And at a bare minimum, we have to be competitive with those guys.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And obviously there's some overlap between your seasons and other professional sports. So, I mean, there's always those challenges to overcome. But, some of the fan engagement stuff is huge, right? So for the longest time, I didn't even know we had a team, right? And my job is to cover teams, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up running into a player at one of the pubs downtown. And so that's how I found out. They're like, oh yeah. And I think it was the year after you won your second championship.
Okay.
And I was like, how did we not only have a rugby team, but a highly successful one, nobody knows about it.
Yeah. And it's a thing, as I mentioned, like, rugby, it has existed in this little bubble, right? I feel like coming in, there's a faction of fans that are like, this is our little thing, right? And we love it. We want to keep it dear to our hearts. And then there's the other side where it's like, no, we need to make this huge and invite the world. And yeah, it means more people. It means meeting people. It means, bigger stadiums. So we invested heavily this past season and on our out of home marketing. So you probably saw billboards up throughout the city. We were on buses. Our partnership with Soar Media allows us to do some great things. Um, and we're just thinking outside the box. Our ownership group allowed me to come in and just like figure it out. What do we need to do to figure it out? So,
Right on. So what? Since it's been that approach of just come in and figure it out, what was probably your most successful event versus maybe the least successful event outside of what the very first was like a preseason game, probably the worst possible weather. Like it wouldn't have mattered what you did that day. I couldn't even get pictures on the field. It was so wet.
oh yeah, yeah. So from our events, we have our game day experiences. We have our watch parties. One of my favorite this year at the end of the season, we did our first award ceremony, our end of season wrap up with the players where they were awarded, and our partners, investors and everyone came and were able to celebrate with the players. Most importantly, their families and their wives. Anytime you can give the wags an opportunity to get dressed up and attend a gala type event
Yes.
is amazing. So that was one of the fun things I think on the season for me personally, being coming in. To my knowledge, the team had never accomplished that. So being able to get that on the books and take it across the line was great. In season, we added a ton of new stuff. We added a legends. So each game we honor a Seawolves legend, someone who's instrumental on or off the pitch and helping grow the franchise. So we recognize several of our owners, as well as past players that came back, and it's a way to build that community, right? I'd love to get to a point where we have our own Gold Jacket Hall of Fame for Major League Rugby, but until then, we'll do it at a team level and recognize those that have been instrumental. We improved our game day experience, our fan fest area with, you know, a lot of community activations, games, live music, DJs. In game we play at Starfire, so we invested in our own screen for the season and sound just to fix what I like to say outdated sound system. So
That's fair.
and then which our fans loved. Crystal clear PA, great imagery on the screen. We added pitch side cabanas this year for VIP and premium seating. Our corporate partners loved being able to, sit literally at the back of what would be an end zone, I guess, in the NFL or so, and have the players when they score a try, they're right there in front of you and you can high five them. So we've focused on how can we create premium experiences that mimic, our friends at Lumen Field or other facilities, Husky Stadium, that we don't currently have, but we can be creative.
Yeah. Well, and of course, for the people that are joining in that don't know rugby,
Yeah.
they hear try, and they may not necessarily know what that is. So, I mean, if you want to expand on that a little bit, just for the people that might be encountering rugby for the first time.
All right. So I'm new to rugby too. So I'm learning as we go. And from what I understand, there's people who followed rugby for a decade that are still learning stuff, right? So a try is a score. And unlike football, American football, crossing the goal line or the try line does not score you. The ball has to actually touch the ground. So when you see those guys get into the try zone, they'll typically dive or they'll touch the ball to the ground. That gives you 5 points. Then you kick for 2. If you score a try through the uprights, it's an automatic 7. Oddly enough, players will avoid doing that just to give their teammates some rest, because rugby is like soccer. There's no timeouts or rest. So that kick gives them an extra 2 or 3 minutes to catch their breath or even have a huddle or talk some things out or so. Um, but yeah, a try is 5 points. Then you kick it, you get two. If you get a penalty kick, I believe it's 2 or 3. Yeah, fun stuff.
So it's funny because I had seen them do that a bunch of times and deliberately avoid touching down. And
Yeah,
it was funny because we lost quite a few games on kicks. So in my head, I was like, why wouldn't you just be,
I,
in there?
I've
And
asked the same question multiple times, and a player actually explained that to me. I'm like, why are we not? And they were like, sometimes it gives a player a rest, and I'm like, yeah, about that.
I
But
mean, points are points though, right? Like
yeah,
I'm a fan of like the old John Madden, right? Whoever ends
yeah.
up with the most points at the end of the game wins. It's funny.
So again, I stick to the business ops, and I let Coach Clarkey, who's very capable, manage the game.
Right on.
So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like that's
yeah.
what you pay him to do. It just, from the outside, you're just like, I feel like there was points there. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So
so moving into next season, I would imagine based on the things that worked and didn't, you kind of have a plan. Obviously, not a timeline because you don't have the schedule yet. But what are some of the things that kind of have planned as far as the team, fan engagement, stuff like that?
well,
What do people see on the horizon this year?
so off season, we've been steady at work. One of the elements that we have not done a great job at is building our community grassroots. So this off season, Coach Malifa has jumped in, and we have players that we've done a ton of engagement, partnering. We have partnerships coming with the Boys and Girls Club of King County as well as
Cool.
Bellevue. Um, Working with multiple organizations. King County Play Equity Coalition, we partnered with them and the other major sports teams in Seattle to do what was called a sampling camp. And whereas we took over a morning, the Seahawks took over an afternoon, then the Mariners and the Sounders, and it allowed over 100 kids to sample rugby for the first time. And so my goal is to get rugby in places where it's not. It's how we grow our fan base in the long term. You look at MLS soccer, you look at lacrosse, right? You can't go past the open field somewhere in the city on the weekend and not see kids engaging in the sport. Rugby, that needs to be a thing. So we've been passionate about how do we put a rugby ball in the hands of as many children as possible. And that's through community organizations, that's through holding our own camps. I have lofty ambitions of trying to get rugby into elementary schools, starting in elementary and middle schools through phys ed programs and partnering with elementary schools. Again, the goal is to have as many kids uh, learn, catch, pass, and run and go home. As a father, I have a 5-year-old or 5.5-year-old daughter that came home one day and was like, Dad, I want to do gymnastics. And here I am now paying for gymnastics class, right? And
Yeah.
that's how it works. So part of our growing our fandom and growing the rugby ecosystem in this region as well as the country is introducing it to youth. Those kids will grow into middle schoolers that like rugby. We have several clubs, both women and men's for high school and middle school in the region, to where they go into high school. And if there's a large enough demand, then we can have that conversation of why isn't rugby in our high schools? But I think we have to start at the community level and at the grassroots level. So this off season, we've been dedicated to doing that. And our goal is to have that transfer over into increased ticket sales and increase awareness and just increase excitement in the city about the sport.
So, getting kids involved in that way, how do people find it? Right? Do you have links to these maybe on the Seawolves website, or because I mean, making it easy to get to these things would obviously help.
Yeah. So off season, another project in our off season is revamping our website so that we will have a community page that will lead them into these programs. It's currently being worked on, and the goal is to have everything live by September when things go back to school. But we are always posting. Our social media is amazing. The team that does our social media keeps everyone in the loop of camps, clinics, and things. We have a huge community report we'll be releasing it probably in the next week or so. Over 1,000 hours donated in the off season, or correction, throughout the year, of man hours to various nonprofits, community activations. We've generated over 100K in donations. We've partnered with over 50 nonprofits. We've executed over 65 events. And these are things off the pitch, all with the goal of growing the game, growing the recognition of our brand, and most importantly, supporting the community, right? So we're very active. The Seawolves historically have been very active. We just haven't been very good about sharing that with the world. And it's time that we let the world know that, yes, on the pitch, we're excellent. Off the pitch, we're just as excellent.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I mean, obviously the events that you guys have put together with places like Queen Anne Beer Hall, where the team comes out and people get to meet them. All of those are awesome events.
Yeah. So those are the in-season activations, our watch parties. So we have a bar network where we have various bars in the region that we partner with, and we'll do active watch parties, and the non-rostered, or the guys that do not travel, will attend those. And those are typically the players who did not travel that weekend will attend those and interact with fans. And it's just, again, a great experience. There's not many professional leagues where you can watch an away match and get to rub elbows with players that you're typically seeing on TV.
Yeah. And obviously this is probably a coaching question more than anything, but how do those players get selected week to week? I mean, I would imagine players that are injured, that's an easy selection.
Yeah.
That you're not traveling, right? But with every team, there's always the few players that maybe coaches' decisions or something, maybe a matchup change that has them not travel with the team, not suit, stuff like that. How do those get decided in rugby? Obviously I'm a football background also. So, there's a few guys that just don't get a suit because the roster doesn't allow you. But is that similar, or
I would say it's very similar. No, I would say it's very similar. I mean, basketball is the same, right? If you're in football and you're playing a team and you're going to use a fullback, then you may not suit one of your tight ends or leave a receiver home and they won't travel, right? Or you're going to play a dime package or a nickel package. Much in rugby, Coach Clarkey and our coaching staff, they spend a lot of time watching film and analyzing what schemes and things they want to implement. And based on the personnel available, obviously you have some injuries and all, they'll travel what they feel is best, right? And if someone's obviously at 70% and not 100% ready to go, then you'll bring a second guy just in case or what. But yeah, they make those decisions in rugby ops, and they do a phenomenal job. Coach Clarkey, I would say he's a man with a plan, and he's good at getting us across the line.
Now, when you're watching these games at home, a lot of times you see the guys that aren't suited for the game, but they'll be out there with the pennies on, just giving work. I imagine logistically it doesn't make sense to have those guys provide that on the road because, lodging and airfare, stuff like that.
Well, those are your reserves. Similar, like you'll see that in MLS and soccer too. So you have 15 on the field. You travel, I believe, 26 or 20. So those are guys who are staying warmed up so that if they have to go in, they go in.
Oh, okay. So even on a home game, they're
there.
fully not suited.
They're there. So the guys you see on the pitch warming up all the time on the tri zone, those guys are part of the team, active roster, and ready to go. That's them staying warmed up so that if they get called in, they're not sitting on the bench for 40 minutes and then going in cold. So you'll see it again in MLS soccer. You'll see that a lot as well. The reserves are always running back and forth and staying in. Our guys that are not suited game day are typically, it's amazing. If we're at home, they'll be in our Seawolves Club, which is a private reserve club, or they'll be sometimes down on the pitch or on the sideline interacting with fans and doing stuff. So they stay very active. We do run with the Packs, which is our youth programming, where we'll do youth clinics prior to a match. those guys will come and coach the youth prior to a match as well. So yeah, we keep all our guys busy on game day.
And then, again, on the personnel side, how does it work for acquiring talent? I imagine you got to see some of that being in the front office as far as, is there a draft type of situation each year?
There is a draft. It's coming up in a few weeks. In August, there's the MLR draft. If you follow the Major League Rugby on socials, its website, that stuff is posted.
Okay.
This year, I believe they're trying to make it more fan interactive, so it's not closed room. They're trying to give more access so fans can see how it happens behind behind the curtain. But yes, there is a domestic draft, and then we do have our coaches throughout the league all have access to players around the country, right? There's agents. There's actually rugby players have agents. So there's all that fun stuff that you would have in any other pro sports. But yeah, they have their people around the country or around various countries that have feelers out so they can identify talent, negotiate terms. You'll notice teams throughout the league. Some teams have a ton of French players. Some teams have a ton of South African players. Some teams have a bunch of players from Argentina, and you can tell where those coaches have their ties and where they like to recruit from, right? Same England or Ireland or what. But yeah, there's a huge talent pool outside of the U.S. And then domestically, you're looking at drafting guys coming out of college. So some of these Cal, Berkeley, Dartmouth, some of these schools have historically great rugby programs. So Central Washington University locally, we drafted a guy last year out of the first round there. And so, yeah, there's drafts. There's a lot of things happening in the off season that fans will never see. And I think as a league, we should do a better job of giving fans access behind the curtain so that they're more engaged.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, if anybody were to take anything from the NFL, right, they are the marketing juggernaut, that they've found a way to have fan engagement on literally every single step, right?
Yep.
It's actually impressive. Some of it's a little ridiculous, but it's really impressive. And, you're starting to see the WNBA do more of that, where it's becoming a little more accessible. The NHL, similarly with the draft, they started to make it so that people could be there. And that's why I asked, because I mean, from the outside, you never even hear about a rugby draft.
Yeah. So agreed. These are things that I know are spoken about, and we're a young league. There's a lot to fix at the same time, and a lot of things happening. But if we had a wish list of things, right, that's definitely on it.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I mean, you can only do so much, especially as a growing league, right? Because there's the finances that create all of those opportunities for people to watch. So, that's not always, not always an option for sure. Yeah. So what's the next event that you have coming up that fans would be able to be a part of?
We have community events. We're doing an event on, I believe let me pull up the date here. Oh, you put me on the spot here.
Oh, my bad.
We have, what's the date of this?
I know Dan Creel has his event coming up.
He has a Happy Bundle. Yep, he has a Happy Bundles event coming up next month, which is his charity we support wholeheartedly. There's a community back to school fair happening August 17th at the Kent YMCA that we'll be a part of as well. Community event, I believe. One of our new owners, Marshawn Lynch, will be in attendance, as well as Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, and a bunch of sports camp sampling and things along that line. So we're honored that we were added to the mix. Anytime we can be in that pairing where it's the NFL, our partners at the NFL and the NBA and the Storm, and we're at that seat, that allows us to be seen and learned about, right? It's cross-pollination. Hey, if you have a ton of NBA and WNBA fans coming out, they should know there's a rugby team here, right? So there's a lot of that. Community activations. We'll be doing another event early September, King County Play Equity Coalition. But yeah, right now, aside from that, the business office is hard at work. You know, sponsorship partnerships. We're still moving season tickets and half season tickets, waiting for our schedule to be released. And once we have our schedule, then we'll go 100 miles per hour in terms of just selling out and selling, group tickets and group experiences throughout the upcoming season.
And of course, I can find tickets, Ticketmaster, through your website, I would imagine.
It's,
Right?
everything's online. Everything's online at seawolves.rugby. Fun little URL, easy to remember. So seawolves.rugby/tickets. But yeah, we're in here just working away. It's all the things that our fans don't see. Work everything from retail to partnerships to ticket sales.
Awesome. And then, of course, you mentioned it, and it's one of the questions that we have to ask is how is it the ownership group added Marshawn Lynch, Peters? How did that deal come together?
I mean, a lot of back and forth. We have a very eclectic ownership group, from Julie and Chris Prentice to Adrian Belfour to Chris and Ted Ackerley. They also have an owner stake in the Kraken. And so they're out there doing the good work. Our CFO, Ryan, helped get that across the board. But like I said, when I say I'm surrounded by a good team, it's from our ownership down to, our game day staff. We have a quality team of people, and it's, everybody rolls up their sleeves and they pull the tarps and get the job done. So, yeah.
Very cool. And then I imagine, obviously when the deal went through, we saw him at the game. You see him at Kraken games. Do they get involved very much in the workings of it, or are they more hands-free as far as the, ownership end of it?
Each is a little different. I like to say, Marshawn's very passionate about the community work, and that's where I look forward to leaning on him and having him be a part of. He's any opportunity to work with kids, health, mental health, and just being physical activities. I think it's a good space for him, and that's where he just likes to come, have fun, and interact. So as we build that part of our business, I look to lean in on he and Marcus Peters. We had a few players go to the Bay Area last month and participate in a football camp that he hosted or partnered with, and it was amazing. Our guys, obviously, we have a couple players that played tackle football, and so teaching kids the technique of tackling very well for rugby players, right? How to be safe, how to initiate contact, how to power through, how to keep yourself safe, and how to deliver a devastating blow. But yeah, so we look to explore more opportunities like that. And then we have various people in our ownership group that have, whether it's companies or organizations that we work and partner with as well.
Yeah, it's funny. It seems like teams would want rugby teams to come in to help teach tackling because of the way tackling has evolved. Back when I played, you could still lead with the helmet and, go blow people up. And of course, today, that is not how they let you tackle anymore. That's a 15-yarder all day. Yeah. And so because when you're not padded up, you do have to tackle more deliberately. I'm surprised that there's not more engagement with local rugby teams as far as, having a sure tackle, head out of the way, protecting the neck, clean wrap up. You're
jumping in on my business plan, man. You're jumping. It's coming. You're jumping in on my business plan. No, Chris and Julie Prentice were the founders of Atavis, which is a tackling analytics company, and they started off with rugby. It's now football. It's the CEO there, Kerry Carter, is a good friend. He's actually one of my business partners for the Seattle All-Star Classic. But that is a tackling analytics company. Started with rugby. It's moved over to football, high school, collegiate, and pro. But yeah, it exists. It's out there. I think as the professional rugby team in this region, it's something we can lend a hand in. But again, I'd rather it's in the pipeline. You can't do everything all at once because then you drop the ball on a lot of things. But is this something we can add to the plate? Absolutely. Is this something that we spoke about? Absolutely. Um, it'll happen.
No, it makes sense. And of course, in analytics department, I imagine they probably
You froze, or did I freeze?
can see what kind of impacts there are. Ah, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah. So, but I imagine that they probably partner with places like Rydell that has the football equipment that have the sensors in it, so they can see the level of impact, stuff like that. Shout out to Rydell. It's they have cool technology out there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So on the football side of it, you were part of our Sea Dragons for the XFL.
Yes.
So what was that experience like? I've talked to some people that were part of the league that, obviously they kept the merger and teams going away pretty under wraps. Like there was a lot of people that didn't know until they were told their team was disappearing. What was that feeling like here? Was there a lot of surprise, especially for a Sea Dragons team that was, filling their stadium? And I mean, really, it was a playoff team.
Yeah. I think the Seattle situation was different. Seattle suffers from the lack of a flex stadium, right? And that's what when Memorial Stadium is done in 2027, 28 will hopefully provide, but a MLS size stadium that can hold 10 to 15 or 10K. So for a startup league, what the XFL was, to be renting out Lumen Field, which is a world-class facility, which comes with a world-class price tag. When you're owned by private equity, at some point they're going to make a equitable decision.
That's fair.
So that is what I'll say about that. The experience itself was amazing. A lot was learned. Our fan base was amazing. Again, we played at Lumen Field. I got to operate and move around Lumen and learn and just see the game on a grander scale. The league was a who's who of rock stars, people from MSN, from that worked in their prospective fields for a long time. So they put together an all-star cast that you were able to learn from and grow with. Great organization. So when the when the USFL XFL merger did happen, I mean, we had an idea. I obviously being on the inside track, team leadership, we knew. Could we say anything? No. I was asked 1,000 times, and of course, that's not my place to say. But you also know, and then other opportunities arise, and you have to choose. From a professional standpoint, are you willing to move, or do you want to stay? Like, what's going on here? But my experience there was amazing. I worked with an amazing group. All the VPs of the various teams were, again, we had weekly calls, and there was a lot learned, a lot of shared, a lot of people that did some amazing things in different areas that all get pulled together that you learn from. But yeah, fun times.
So what, if anything, were you able to bring, kind of from that experience to transfer over into the Seawolves? Because, ultimately for expanding the game, that it was a startup league, to your point, right? And so community outreach is huge. And because rugby hasn't had the best, marketing in its infancy, what were you able to bring from that over to jumpstart what it is you're doing?
I brought over everything. I brought over the entire toolbox. I'm not gonna lie. My rule of thumb is surround yourself with intelligent, capable people and let them flourish. Right? That's what the XFL did as well. But from our out of home marketing strategy, to our fan experience, learning, especially from Lumen Field, the group down there. They do the Seahawks fan experience as well. There's, again, a lot of lessons. If you shut up and listen to the people in the room, there's a lot of great things that can be learned. How so yeah, I mean, the answer is I brought over a lot. It was in the 2 years or so I was there. Um, when you're in that 2 years in startup mode, it's like 10 years world knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So I brought over a lot. We implemented a lot of it, and some things we had to table. But yeah, my mentality is based off of like, yo, this can be done. This is where we're headed. Get on the ship. Let's go, and we just go.
Right on. Right on. And then, of course, you're involved in so many other things. So you're the co-founder of the All-Star Classic.
Hmm.
How did that come together? And of course, it's been around for years now,
Yeah.
and great event. How did that come together, and how do fans get more involved?
So the Seattle All Star Classic was a COVID project when COVID shut down. So I owned a consulting firm, uh, H206 Consulting, and we specialize in doing crowd engagement, business and event operations. The same thing I do now, I just did it private sector wise. So we're part of the group that did Richard Sherman Celebrity Softball Game in year one and year two. I've done high school all star games. Um, 9, 10 years ago, we started the Seattle Polo Party, which is our annual event. So essentially, spectator sports that raise money for charities, but still require sponsorship, ticket sales, and all those other elements. Um, the Seattle All Star Classic was over COVID when everything shut down and you pull out the pencil and pad and I started buying URLs and penciling out. And essentially, it's a platform. What I looked at is I have a ton of friends that are retired pro athletes, and even during their playing days, they wanted to do things, they just didn't have the infrastructure. And what I mean is, like, someone has an idea to do a celebrity bowling event or a celebrity softball or kickball or what, but you're here playing a season, all your people are in North Carolina or wherever, right? So who can you call on locally that can have the playbook and have the organizational structure to get things done? So we started just ideas and doing stuff, and after a while, I was just like, I can't do this by myself. So I reached out to Kerry Carter. I mentioned earlier, he's the CEO of Atavis. Kerry Carter is also a retired Seahawks player. He was drafted by the Seahawks out of Stanford, played running back during the Sean Alexander days. So we've known each other again for over 20 years. We worked on the Sherman project together, on a bunch of other projects together. And so we just started penciling things out and then created this space where we partner. We've done the All Star Classic for 4 years. We've had Geno Smith hosted a year, DK Metcalf hosted a year. The last 2 years were Jackson Smith and Jigma. And it's an opportunity to, one, we hosted in Tacoma at Cheney Stadium. So the
Oh, okay.
premise was to, if you know the Seattle region, it's a very expensive region. Majority of blue collar families are being priced out of the city and pushed south of the city towards Tacoma. We wanted to do something in that community where a family of four can attend a star-studded event and not be priced out or price gouged. But also the other side of that are three tiers. So that was one side of it. The other is, how do we partner with community organizations that are doing phenomenal work and give them a platform, right?
Hmm.
Um, Majority of nonprofits in the area are one, maybe two paid personnel and a bunch of volunteers, right? Um, for them to do an event and partner with a DK Metcalf or it's out of their preview. They don't make enough. They're not in that circle. That unfortunately most nonprofits have that. It's like nonprofits are like a popularity contest in a lot of senses. The same few get a lot of attention, right? And then there's dozens upon dozens that are out there doing great work in the community that never get love. So our goal was to give them a seat at a table. And then the third was to leverage the power of sports, right? All these athletes and the entertainers to help local community organizations raise awareness around what they're doing. Also use this event as fundraising, and then last, give the people in those communities a fun, inexpensive event to attend.
So if there were, a nonprofit that was interested in having something like that, how would they go about, becoming involved, a partner, however it is you want to say that?
Visit SeattleAllStarClassic.com. Shoot us an email. It's that simple.
All right.
It's
Straightforward as it gets.
it's just that simple. Yeah.
And then, of course, one other thing that you're involved in that you mentioned along the way there is the Polo Equestrian Club.
Yes.
So how that's another one. Like, where did that come in? And I didn't even know we had a polo club.
Yeah. So it's the other side of the spectrum. I like to say, I have my wealthy friends, and then I have my community friends, and I meet them in the middle, right? And connect both worlds. So Cameron Smith, a dear friend of mine, started the Seattle Polo and Equestrian Club, I want to say 15 years ago now. Had a bright idea about throwing an annual event, more of a day party than a gala, just to raise the awareness around polo and the sport. And we were introduced to mutual friends like, hey, I know this guy that throws really good events, and you guys should meet. And we partnered up, and over the years, I said we had 9 years of just throwing and growing the sport of equestrian polo. And polo party is essentially a day event where, it's 2 polo matches, a early one, a late one. We have some great partners from Rolls-Royce to Aston Martin to you name it. People purchase tables or cabanas, and you're out in a farm in the middle of Enumclaw watching professional polo. And it's crazy. If you see the imagery of it, it's like you would think you were like, in Indio somewhere or Coachella, but no, we do that in Seattle as well.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That is the last thing I think of when I think of Enumclaw.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Horses, yes, but
yeah,
when I had horses, I used to go out there to buy hay, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd go out with my flatbed and get a couple tons of hay out of Enumclaw. So like it was,
yeah.
Was
so
not,
I like to say once a year. Yeah, once a year for about 5 hours, we everyone from Bellevue, Seattle, and the surrounding areas invades Enumclaw. Anywhere from 12 to 1,500 guests, catered food, DJs, music. Most important part of the day is the hat parade. So if you ever watch the movie Pretty Woman, where they go out and do the divot stomp, we will. It's an event where we'll have at least between 600-700 ladies out on the pitch or out on the field doing the divot stomp just for the hat parade alone. And it's a fashion show. Like it's one of the, I'd say it's my favorite event that I've ever produced or been a part of.
All right. It's got the fashion show element of Kentucky Derby type of thing.
Yeah. Entertainment, you say what? You've got sports, music, and food, right? Those are the 3 key movers in life, the 3 connectors in life, I believe. Annie Wilkins said that, right? Is if you have sports, music, and food, you can connect anyone between those 3. And we have those 3 elements. And you add a little fashion on top, and it wins.
That's awesome. And of course, bringing it back to rugby. There were a few events where it was a whole day of rugby. Right. Mm-hmm. So you guys were playing in the evening and there were games leading up to it. Are those local clubs or what did that look like? How did you pair that? I mean, obviously, I guess some of that was probably put together by Starfire as well, but.
No, that's us. That's all us.
Okay. All right.
So there's 2 big events, or I'll take a step back. We host things called curtain raisers, and what they are is we have local rugby club on a theme night. Like, so we have on Pride night, we have 2 Pride themed rugby clubs that play each other prior to the main match. For our salute to service night, we had an Army Navy match, which was amazing. And we also had a soldier that was promoted at the match. So another amazing experience.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then for the high school state championships, as I mentioned earlier, there's about, I think, there's over 20 boys clubs and about 8 women high school level clubs that play and compete throughout the state, and rugby was the governing organization. So we partnered with them and hosted the rugby state championship. So we had three matches: the Division 1 boys, women's, and Division 2 boys championship, all at Starfire. Prior to our evening match. So, it's an opportunity to allow those young athletes to come play on the big stage in a big stadium. Um, their parents that are used to bringing, a lawn chair to watch them play or what, they got to do it at Starfire with the big boy sound, big boy screens, take photos, and then stay for the match. So it's part of us just growing the sport. But yeah, we call them curtain raisers, and then obviously our partnership with high school rugby. And I look to add to that. I have a vision where with youth rugby, we do flag rugby tournaments prior to our matches. As we grow youth rugby and we get it into all the boys and girls clubs and things along that line, why not create a flag rugby league for the youth and just, again, more access, more growth.
No, for sure. Just thinking about how rugby is played, how would that work when it comes to the flag version?
You pull the flag. They have touch rugby, so it already exists. There's touch rugby and flag rugby. It's already out there in the world.
I'm just thinking of like the scrum. Like, how does that?
There's no scrum. There's no scrum. It's more like seven. It's more like sevens. It's more you're passing and going. Yeah, there's it's like more of a 7-on-7 field than it would be at the 15s.
Yeah, I was just thinking of like throw-ins and stuff. I was like, I feel like that would be hard to do flag-wise.
Yeah, different set of rules. But again, like for us, again, it's the getting youth and their parents and their family members access to rugby at a young age, and knowing that by doing so, some of them will tailor off, but others will stick with the sport, and that's how we grow the sport, and just in the region, but also in America.
Well, and of course, it's such a cool opportunity that the kids have to be able to come, because, a lot of the people that are watching the Seawolves at night come early, right?
Yeah.
Because the weather's usually good by then. And so they stay for it. And it doesn't matter how old you are. There is nothing cooler than stepping into a full stadium.
Oh,
right? You step on the field. Amazing.
And the cool thing Starfire affords us is that the proximity to the field, and a lot of larger stadiums, you're so far away from the action. Whereas here, you're literally, as you're walking to your seat, you're next to the pitch and you're seeing guys get tackled or guys flying by. And it's a different level of energy. It's a different level of experience.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you can be close to the action is huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like me, I'm old now. I can't play any sports really. So, but
I might be older than you. Watch yourself on that.
Hey, I'm just saying the knees aren't as good as they once were.
I get you.
As part of the media covering these things, you still get to enjoy a little bit of that crowd noise that even when you age out, you still you miss.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's funny. Cam Chancellor came to a couple matches this year, and I had him at our pitch side cabana. And you're watching it, and he's like, "Oh, rugby," and he gets closer, and he's like, "These boys is kind of big." And hearing that coming from Bam Bam, you're like, "Yeah." And then he's watched a couple of them get hit, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not doing that, man. Give me my helmet and shoulder pads. We're not doing that."
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Granted, I think if Cam Chancellor actually stepped on the pitch, he would be a gladiator. It would be, it would be horrible for a lot of people.
Cam would be a monster out there.
I'm glad he went the football route. It probably saved a couple lives.
Yeah. No, Cam would blow some people up. There is no doubt.
Yeah.
Be entertaining.
Be entertaining for the other guy. I call that baloney in your shoe funny, right? If someone puts a piece of baloney in your shoe and everyone else knows it except you, it's only funny for everybody else. The guy that stepped in the shoe, not so much.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, no. Definitely from the spectator side. The guy that just got leveled, not so much.
Not so much. Yeah.
I mean, I remember getting, some of those hits where you had a pulling guard light up the ear hole of your helmet, and you're just like, oh, yeah, that dude had 100 pounds on me. That did not feel good at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
So as we get close to the end here, what is the one thing that you want fans to know more than anything about, this coming season, whether it's events to be at, how to interact with players, any of that.
My commercial pitch for rugby is simply this: rugby is the only sport I've ever attended. So my first rugby match I attended, and it was part of my interview process. Actually, they're like, "Hey, come out to a match, check it out," and I'm standing there watching it, and random people, not people who were tasked with babysitting me, but I'm sitting down looking and I'm like, what's the line? And someone jumps in and they're explaining the game to me as it's happening, right? This is happening, da da da. And this is multiple fans. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but this is the only sport where a random fan will not shush you or tell you to shut up because you're talking midway through a play, right? They will actually take the time to explain it to you and become your best friend through it. So that's the first thing about rugby. The second is it's the only sport where after watching two teams beat the living crap out of each other on the pitch, that you will watch all those guys, they will shower, come together and have pizza and beer or whatever the food is and break bread before they leave. And it's customary. There's you don't see it in any other sport, right? So what I want fans to know is that, we've worked on building and curating a quality product, a entertaining product, right? Even if you don't know the rules, I promise you, you will come, you will have fun, great food, high energy, you'll make new friends, right? And you'll become, I always say to the women, who doesn't like mullets, beards, and short shorts? And,
Yes.
they all have nice quads. I'm just saying. I throw the guys out there. I apologize to their wives later, but that's how I pitch it, right? But I'm just saying it's a fun sport. Our crowd base and the energy is exciting. For this season, our goal is to improve upon everything we did last year. We added a lot of new elements, right? We tweaked I always say we're building the plane as we go, but we tweaked things in real time and got better and got better. The feedback from our fans at the end of the season was amazing. So we know we're headed in the right direction, and it's to continue to grow, not just game day, but off the pitch. I think the work we're doing in the community, work we're doing in grassroots level will help us grow the sport, introduce new people to the sport, and these are all the things we need to survive, right? So support, season tickets are super inexpensive, right? If you're a small company looking for ways to entertain, trust me, come to rugby. If you have a birthday or a group outing you want to do, come to rugby. If you have a nonprofit or something and you want to raise money, we do, fundraisers where we help small nonprofits raise money. So there's a lot of ways to get involved. But I think I'm confident if you come to a match, you will become a fan of rugby and you will want to come back again. That I'm confident of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's such a fast sport too, right? Because like you said, there's no timeouts. It is soccer in that way, where it's just a constant flow. And to echo your point, the fans, rugby fans are very passionate about rugby. Mm-hmm. And if there's anything that you're not tracking or why is this a thing, absolutely they'll jump in and tell you why it is that way. And they're happy to do it, right? Like, especially when there's times where it looks like they should be able to just run down the field and they'll still kick it, right? Yeah. And then it's a race to try and get back to it. It's like, oh, well, why would you do that? And they'd take the time to sit there and be like, oh, well, this is why you would do it. And so, yeah, to echo your point there is they are incredibly helpful about learning the rules. Cause I would watch rugby, but I never really paid attention to why things happened the way they did until the last couple of years. And it was just like, oh, okay, like this is far more involved than when you're just kind of blankly watching it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we have one of the best fan bases. We were voted best sports team by our fan base in 2024 in the Seattle Times. But it's one of those things that I've been around a lot of sports, track and field and football and basketball, and it's unique in its own way, which makes me excited because I get to be, as a leader, I get to be part of something new where, we're growing a new sport, not only in the country, but in the Pacific Northwest, and you get to put your stamp on it, right? My predecessors did an amazing job getting us to this point, and my job is to not fumble the rock and to take honestly, you come in, Brian Jones, our prior CEO, did an amazing job. And it's like, all right, you come in and it's like, don't fumble the rock, take what was handed to you and build upon it and make it better, right? And most importantly, share it with more people, right? Rugby in this country will only do well if it's grows, right? And we need net new people. I think all the rugby fanatics know about us, right? All
Yep.
their immediate family knows about us. I need everyone else. If I say Seattle Seahawks, whether you're a football fan or not, you know who they are. I
Yep.
need that same type of love when it comes to Seattle Seawolves rugby, right? And we have to do the hard work on our end, right? We can't just say, hey, you should know who we are. So I'm out there. I sit on a ton of boards. I'm in a lot of meetings in a lot of spaces, being our cheerleader, our evangelist, our everything, right? But on the back end, we're doing the hard work on the front end, but on the back end, if you're a fan new to the area, I like to say, if you moved here and you already have a football team because because of where you lived, or we don't have a basketball team, or you root for another baseball team and don't like the Mariners, I'm okay with all that. Chances are you don't have a rugby team, so jump on. Jump
There
on.
is that.
There you go. Our colorway is very similar. You can rock the gear anywhere. And there's a lot of ways to skin this cat. But yeah, we just want to grow the fandom. Rugby World Cup, as mentioned, we're coming to the US in 2031, 2033, respectively. So Lumen Field should be a landing spot for some of those matches. We want enough of the American populace to know rugby to want to support and go to a Rugby World Cup and party. It is one of the largest events in the world. You get behind FIFA, behind the Super Bowl, behind the Olympics, where Rugby World Cup is up there. So fun times ahead.
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate you guys letting me be part of it. So covering it this last year, looking forward to doing it again this coming season. You know, definitely here to help you grow any way I can. And but we'll let you get back to your busy day. And Drew, always a pleasure talking to you. Until next time. And then, of course, probably see you at the at Dan Creel's gala.
Oh, that's perfect. All right. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm sure he does as well. So thank you for your time, and thank you for covering MLR and the Seattle Seawolves. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Take it easy, man.
Take care. Bye.